Yo, my name is Ryan Fila and I've been traveling around Colombia for about 3 months. And in today's video, I'm gonna give you 10 things that I think you should know before traveling here. Buses. Number one is that buses can basically take you anywhere around this country. You can get from Cali to Medellin to Cartagena over to Bogota by bus. Now, national flights are usually pretty cheap if you're traveling from the dollar or the euro or the pound or somewhere else in the world, but buses are typically much cheaper. Now, if they're close, like, I don't know, 10, 20 bucks, and it's an 8-hour bus ride versus a 45-minute flight, you're your own boss on your trip and you make that decision, but buses are almost always going to be cheaper. Now, with buses here in Colombia, there are a few things you should know. The first thing is, if you are not the first stop on that bus route, there's a solid potential, there's a solid chance that that bus is going to be late. Now, I'm not telling you to show up at the station late. I'm just telling you, be aware when you get to the station, there's a good chance that bus is going to be late. Honestly, I think that's because the traffic is just so unpredictable here. It's just hard to predict how long it's going to take the bus to get from one stop to another, so typically they end up being late. Second thing you need to know about buses is they are usually way more comfortable than Greyhounds, especially if you're taking an overnight bus or a bus with companies like Boliviario, I think is the name. Bolivio, something like that, or Brasilia. Companies that have nicer buses are way nicer than Greyhounds. The third and last thing you need to know about buses is overnight buses are a great option. If you have an 8-hour trip, oftentimes the bus will have an overnight bus where you can just sleep and the seats fold pretty far back. You get on the bus, you go to sleep, you wake up, you are where you need to be, and that's it. Number two, locals don't usually use cocaine. I would say the majority of Colombians don't do drugs in general. Like, they drink while they're dancing salsa and they have coffee running through their veins. But as far as hard drugs go, that's really rare out here, unless you're looking for it as a tourist, or you find that one sketchy guy on the street who's like, drogas? You want drugs? Cocaine? Weed? Because he knows you're a tourist. Now, I know the majority of you, or at least I hope, don't do cocaine, okay? But it's important that you know the culture of it here because it's a big deal here. Pablo Escobar in that whole time period was and is still a big deal to the people here. I mean, people my age, I'm 26 years old, people my age have grandparents who died because a lot of the war and a lot of the issues in this country due to the drugs. And I think because of that, a lot of them choose not to do it because they just have that strong tie to the issues and the deep-rooted problems that it's created in this country. But as you would expect, because tourists know about that and they come here sometimes for that, there will definitely be people in the streets trying to sell you cocaine or sell you drugs because they're taking advantage of that stereotype and plugging it on the streets. You'll get some sketchy guy that just walks up to you and very boldly asks you if you want drugs, weed, or cocaine in the streets. I've had that happen to me more than once. Okay, that's enough of that. Number three is how to not get ripped off by taxis in this country. Let me break it down a little bit for you. In Bogota and Medellin, the taxis have a little ticker. It's almost like a small alarm clock. That's what it looks like. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just got a red number on it and it ticks much like it does in taxis in the United States. So if you get into a taxi in Bogota and Medellin, make sure the taxi driver starts using that. If he or she doesn't want to use that, get out of the taxi because they're gonna rip you off. Now, on top of that, the taxi should have some type of price list in the car, especially in Bogota. Here in Medellin, I haven't seen it so much, but in Bogota, there's like a price list. It looks almost like a menu and it aligns how much that ticker says with how much it costs. But typically what that ticker says is the price. Now, on holidays or late at night, sometimes they'll charge a premium. I don't know how legit that is. Usually it's not very much, but at least you can see what it is and you know you're not getting that ripped off if that's not legit. Now that's Bogota and Medellin. For Cali, Cartagena, and most of the other cities, they don't have that ticker. So it's kind of hard to know what your price is supposed to be. What I would tell you, and my tip to you really, is if you're in the airport or you're in the bus station or you're somewhere where you need to take a taxi out of and you don't have service and you don't want to use a ride sharing app, whatever the case may be, ask people in that area, find somebody who speaks English, or if you speak enough Spanish to get around, ask somebody around you, hey, about how much should a taxi be from here to wherever you need to go. Use Google Translate, make sure you download that before you come if you don't speak Spanish, and just show it to them like, hey, this is where I'm trying to go, about how much should a taxi be. Then you know you're not getting super ripped off, because most of the times if you're going to get ripped off, it's because you have no idea how much things are worth in this country, and that's okay because you're not from here. But you can mitigate a lot of those issues by simply asking. Now, another thing on taxis in general is there's a registration number that you'll find on all the windows on the side of the taxi, and that's how you know it's a legit taxi that's been registered and is basically cleared to be a taxi. Those are the taxis that you want to get in. Many people will tell you not to use the taxis, and there's a big fear of the taxis, which I can understand because of the small percentage of issues and things that happen. A lot of them seem to be correlated with taxis, but in my experience, I've been taking them for the 3 months that I've been here and had no problems. But understand who you are as a traveler, right? If you're a solo female traveler who doesn't speak any Spanish, maybe ride sharing apps is the best way for you to get around. It's just a little bit safer, and it's the reality of travel. But you should also know, here in Colombia, ride sharing apps are technically illegal, but the facts on the ground are they're used all the time. This goes for Uber, Didi, Pickup, which is used for moto taxis, and Cabify. They're used all the time. Hey, yeah, thankfully I don't have any sponsors yet, so I can interrupt myself with myself. And with that, I just want to remind you that I have a travel map for Colombia that has over 170 locations on it with my personal notes. This includes places to eat, hole in the walls, adventures, all sorts of places that you wouldn't find on a normal week somewhere. I spent 3 months traveling Colombia, and in those 3 months, there wasn't a week that went by that I didn't add places to this map. While you're traveling it around, it'll be right in your pocket. Where's my, here it is. It's right here. Sorry, my tripod's giving me problems. Does this work? There we go, right here, right on this map. Well, it's a little bright, but you get it. It's right here in your pocket. It's the next best thing to me being right here, holding your hand, traveling with you. Check it out in the description. I promise the $10 is worth it when you're on the ground in Colombia. It'll save you way more than $10 if we're being honest. Okay, back to not so confused me giving you tips. Number 4, dancing is ingrained in the culture here, and it's about the fun, it's about the enjoyment, it's about the experience. It's hard to explain if you've never been here, and especially if you've never been to South America or somewhere in general where dancing is a huge part of their lifestyle. Being from the United States, typically dancing type of situations become either you're the person in the middle of the circle who's getting it, knows how to dance, or you're the person on the wall like chilling. You know what I mean? If you don't know what you're doing, get the hell out of the way. That's kind of how the dance culture is felt and seen in the United States, but it's not like that here at all. It's all about having fun and getting out there. So I don't care how awkward you feel, I don't care if you cannot dance at all, go out there and try. Have somebody around show you a couple steps and give it a go. The people here in Colombia will really appreciate that, because you are appreciating and welcoming their culture into your life, even if it's not normal for you. They will recognize that and love it, even if you don't know what you're doing. I feel like that was a long rant talking about dance culture. Number 5 is a quick tip on lunch. El menú del día is the menu of the day. Basically what it is at more local restaurants, they'll have one meal or a couple meals at lunch that are super cheap, that they've kind of mass prepared, I guess, but they're delicious and you could get it for $2-3. Usually it includes some type of meat, beans or lentils, rice, plantains, salad, and a drink. How you know this place has el menú del día is usually they'll have like a sign or one of those, I don't know what they're called, like the triangle things on the sidewalk that you can write on that says el menú, and then that doesn't mean it's the menu for the whole restaurant. That just means that's like the menu for lunch. It's kind of confusing if you've never seen it before, but it's just their cheaper lunch menu typically. Number 6, tipping culture. Should you tip? Should you not tip? Tipping is gaining ground here in Colombia, but it's definitely not necessary like it is in the United States. Honestly, if you're coming from the States though, I like to look at it as a way to give back because it's something that I'm super used to, right? We tip every time we go out to eat at a restaurant, and here the tip is much cheaper because the food is much cheaper, and usually it's just 10%. So I tip almost every time, I think mostly because it's just ingrained in my mental state being from the US. But if you're not from the United States and come here, tipping is certainly not a requirement, but again, it's a really good way to give back. As a side note, if you want to tip on card, just know that's going to get shared equally throughout the whole staff. So if you really just liked the service of your server, give them cash. That'll go directly to them. Number 7, Venezuelan refugees. Now, I'm no professional on this topic. I've been to Brazil, here in Peru, and seen what the aftermath of the insane situation that's been going on in Venezuela has been in other countries. But just be aware that a lot of people on the streets that are selling candy or asking for coins or just are homeless are from Venezuela, and they're refugees just trying to escape their country. And I don't know if it's because of that or just because of the welcoming and warming nature of Colombians, but helping and giving a little bit wherever you can is much more normal here than it is in the United States. Again, that's my perspective. I'm sorry if you're watching this from another place, but that's where my perspective comes from. And you'll find a lot of people giving like bread or a drink when they walk out of a restaurant to somebody who's on the street, or giving coins when somebody comes by and asks. So if you're traveling here, I think one thing to do that'll help you a lot is just keep some coins in your pocket, because you are going to be a tourist. The people on the streets will also recognize that, and you will get asked more. So just having a couple coins in your pocket all the time to give out helps somebody on the street, but also helps you just kind of get through and maneuver a little bit more efficiently. When it comes to this topic in specific, I know I'll probably get some backlash, like all those people don't need the money and people are renting kids to make money on the street and they're not really using that for food, they're using it for drugs. And I know that stuff happens. It's real, it's legit, and those are genuine obstructions and real pushback. But my pushback against that is for every person that you help that isn't genuinely trying to better their life, or they're using it for drugs, or they're renting kids on the street, you're probably going to help 3 people who actually need it, who just want to buy some food or get a place to stay for the night. So it's a little bit of give and take. But again, if you're traveling here, you have the means to help out where you can, and it's really not that much to you. Number 8, cash is king. Cards mostly accepted in tourist areas or in nicer restaurants, but you definitely want to have cash on you because transportation takes cash, street food takes cash, public transit takes cash. If you want to go to restaurants that aren't like super nice, not super nice, but like on the nicer end, if you want to get el menú del día, you will often have to pay with cash. Cash is king. If you want to get whatever this guy's selling on the street, this guy. He's selling guava. You'll need cash. Number 9, English is not common. Learning a few Spanish phrases and words before you get out here will go a long way, and the people really appreciate it. And for when your phrases run out, make sure you download offline Google Translate so you have English or whatever language you're coming from to Spanish at all times, no matter if you have service or not. And also, if you're afraid or a little bit nervous of that language barrier, 1, Colombians are super warm and welcoming. Don't know if I've said that yet. Number 2, it's amazing how much humans can communicate without actually speaking. I mean, think about when we were kids and we didn't speak at all, but we would run around and we would do charades and communicate just fine. That's still ingrained in us, and you can communicate with your hands at a fairly high level. Kind of like the mic up here. I don't know, just like holding the mic. Is this weird on video? If it is, sorry, not sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Number 10, if you speak Spanish, be ready for an over greeting. People in Colombia will ask how you are, how your dog is, how your family is, how your night went, is your car running okay, before they actually get to the point of what they want to say. It's just normal here. Like, being overly kind and overly gracious at the beginning of the conversation is normal. And that's 10 things that you should know before coming to Colombia. Now I am going to give you a bonus 11th. Don't flush your toilet paper. It goes in the trash bin next to the toilet, not in the toilet. You know, just because I'm that kind of guy. Well, here's future Ryan. I thought of something after I filmed the majority of this video that I really wanted to add in here, because I think you should know it before you come here. And if I'm being 100% honest, I'm not always the best at giving specific advice to women travelers, because that's not my experience. So a lot of times that's not just how I perceive and see things. But this one has definitely caught my attention, and I think it's important for both men and women to know. It's that when you get here, women are heavily sexualized in this country. And I think a lot of it derives from this notion, this idea that like Colombian women are super beautiful and gorgeous, so they feel like they have to uphold this idea. But on the flip side of that, you will get catcalled. People will say stuff in the streets, and men are vocal about it. I don't know how else to say it, but you will notice it, and I want you to know that before you get here, so at least you're aware of it before landing. Okay, and that's your tips on traveling to Colombia. Again, I'm Ryan Fila. I hope you're out there trying to live the limit, and if you found this video helpful, I'm gonna put 2 up right here. One with some more tips on traveling Colombia, and the other about a dope experience and story that I had while I was in this country. That's it for this one. Much love, y'all. Peace.